Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It is MelloMike, and of course, as always, I am joined by my lovely, gorgeous host. It's LadyJenevia.
I'm having a bad hair day, so I put on a hat.
I've been having a bad hair day since December when I last got my hair cut, but it's the world we live in, global pandemic.
Thanks, Boris.
So we are here this week to address semi-final 4 of Melodifestivalen that happened over the weekend. 2 songs have gone to the final, 2 songs have gone to Andra Chansen, and we finally have all 28 songs. So we are going to dive into our own running order this week of who we want to talk about.
Yeah, I chose it. I just wanted to be chaotic, so.
She was very insistent this week, and I saw no reason to argue with her, so... Yes, we're going to do it our own little running order, and we are going to dissect each performance, what we thought, talk about their results, and so on. So starting with song number 1 was Good Life by Tess Merkel, who finished in 5th place.
My heart was sad when it was Tess and the Mamas at the end because they were both Sign and Dennis's numbers. I'm going, oh, come on. Why?
I think this one was always going to struggle. First of all, I mean, congratulations for Tess. You know, after all these years, she's finally come to Mello. She's debuted with her own song, you know, away from Andreas and Lena and Alcazar, you know. So good for her. She came with a high impact number with a concept. She worked the stage, you know. I would, you know, even though she's out of the contest already, I would much rather her come with something so memorable. Like I will remember that number for years to come. You know, it was so high impact. It was a tough competitive semi-final. I don't think there's any mistake in that. There was some really good songs. Had this number been in semi 3, we would have had very different results for Tess. I have no doubt about that. Zero.
Mm-hmm. You remember when it was the week leading up to the actual show, and I had seen the press rehearsals, and I told you that I was fuming because fuming because of the fact that all 7 were decent enough to warrant going through to another round in the contest, and I was fully prepared to say, you know what? Let's get rid of everyone from last week except for Tussie, and then send everyone through to either the finals or AC so it all lines up mathematically, because I was just not having it. I was absolutely fuming of why are we having such a significantly lower caliber, because normally you'll have a weaker semifinal, but you'll have 2 or 3 numbers that are still very good and you go, okay, fair enough, but overall it's not as competitive. But semi 3 this year was one of the worst semi 3s I've ever seen in my many years of watching this contest. So yeah, I'm sad for Tess that she had such a tough semi to be in, and you know, I don't know what the exact number breakdown is going to be, but we'll see the numbers when they come out. But yeah, I always really like to see what Sign and Dennis do, because, and I was messaging, hopefully it's okay for me to say this. I mean, I don't mind sharing if I've talked to people, if it's me just sharing what I said, so then I'm not violating anyone's privacy. But I was talking to Sign once I had found out that Sign and Dennis were doing 2 numbers. And I did tell him that I was really excited to see both of the numbers, because I always really like that they don't just go for what's obvious or what's basic. They always are willing to try something different, to go outside of the box. And it's not necessarily going to be something that everyone's going to like, but art should be bold. I feel very strongly about this. I don't want to just see overly safe concepts, especially for veterans. And both of these acts are veterans of the contest. So, you know, I like to see when they're really feeling creatively inspired and they really try to do something to showcase the act that they're staging. And I like that there was so much attention to detail and there was such a clear design and aesthetic. you had a consistent color palette of a lot of pink, a lot of red. It matched Tess's outfit. And then you had the really, I don't even know, these really cool yellow outfits for the dancers and these really high fashion hats. And it's just so fun to see that because you're never going to see a hat like that just walking down the street. You know, this is fashion. This is high fashion of something where you have to go out of your way to get that, you know? So, and also I will always have so much respect for anyone that is going to do some sort of latex type of latex, leather, you know, those types of materials that they are not comfortable to wear. They are not easy to get in and out of. You know, it's very like, it makes me think of Jawbreaker, which is one of my favorite teen films, but teens probably shouldn't even watch Jawbreaker. It's so adult. But, you know, I think the fashion, I want to say the costume designer was inspired by something that had to do with kind of BDSM. So that there was a lot of kind of latexy type outfits that kind of, I don't know if it was latex or lycra. Listen, I'm not a hora. I didn't go to fashion school, okay? So I'm probably mixing up my fabrics. Really sorry. But the point is that it's so much more interesting to look at. And, you know, I don't know how she managed to get around the stage because I don't think it would have been easy to wear, but you know, what is it? Pain is fashion. That's not always true, but you know, I really, I knew that I was going to get a show and I got a show. So,
now we've now seen all 28 numbers and we've seen how each artist has, you know, utilized the stage, the space. I think Tess is among some of the best in terms of a stage show and giving a concept and utilizing every part of that stage they could. You know, there's a lot of artists that can't say they've done that this year. And, you know, despite the result, Tess put on a show. It was super memorable. The song,
I love that camera angle that's from down low coming up at her.
that was good. It was very disco. It was very sort of, I felt very like early noughties Kylie Minogue vibes, which was a lot more different than I thought we were going to get. I think it was going to be a lot more sort of mainstream schlager, sort of, you know, what Lena Headland gave us. But again, I like that she went for something a little bit unexpected. You know, the song was a bop. You know, she delivered it. It was just unfortunate to be in such a tough semi-final, but it was a great show, and I think she did a really good job on Saturday.
Yeah, and I feel like we should probably address before we move. I mean, it's a point that will come up again later, but because we were talking about this before we started filming, that this critique that's come up to different people, including Tess, in this semifinal, in the show in general, where the critique can be boiled down to people complaining, basically going, I don't get it.
I've seen a few. I've had a few tweets. I've seen a few comments that have suggested, like, listen, we've seen some super vanilla and basic performances. I mean, take your personal feelings away from the songs for just a moment and try to analyze this as a television show, as a production work that has gone into the numbers from people from the creative backgrounds. I don't want to throw names and, you know, throw shade at anyone, because at the end of the day, I know 90% of these artists have probably had nothing to do with their numbers. It's just, this is what you're doing, do it. But so much time and effort and work has gone into Tess's performance. You know, this isn't, you know, I remember last week when we were, you know, looking at semi 3 after it was all done, I think I made a comment that most of these performances look like they were just, the concepts were done Monday morning over coffee, you know, a few days before rehearsals. Time and effort and money went into this to make it so elaborate and so bright and so, you know, wonderful to look at.
That lighting design with creating a hallway for her.
Oh, I was gagged. Just, I don't think there is enough appreciation for the creative process that goes into making these numbers. And we have seen some basic shows this year. Again, we've said it throughout this series.
Not just this year.
Oh, yearly. But, this year you've been given an opportunity like no other to, like you said in previous weeks, create somewhat of a music video style performance because there is no audience and you have more technological enhancements. Most people have not taken advantage of that. Besides,
Mm-hmm.
balls to the walls with Tessa's performance, and it was fantastic. So, people are entitled to their opinion, and you like what you like, and that's fine. But I just think people should, maybe have a little bit more respect for the creative process that goes into some of these numbers. So, if you didn't like Tessa's number, and you prefer something a little bit more in season, that's your prerogative, and no one can take that away from you. But just appreciate what goes into some of these numbers, and Tess absolutely had one of the most creative and high concept numbers of the year.
And I think people need to
Oh,
how shady do I want to be? People need to get better at understanding how to present critical feedback because a lot of people don't know how to categorize their feedback. So for example, when I point out certain things, I'll usually go, well, I don't really like these types of songs, for example. So, like, let's take Frida Green, for example, back in week 2, where I said, this is not my type of song. So, if we're doing a ranking, it's not going to be ranked very high for me personally because it's not my type of song. However, then I'm pointing out everything that I liked about the stage design, and I was going into detail to do with the color choices because you had red and green and you get into color theory. So you don't have to like everything, but you not liking something is not the same thing as you being able to do a critical analysis of breaking down what a number actually is. So if you're meant to just be sharing, I like this and I don't like this, then that's fine. But don't try to act like you're really doing something when you clearly have not put enough thought into how to articulate your feedback, into how to articulate your point. I don't know, maybe you just don't have the technical knowledge of how to do analysis of stage production, of television, of what goes into, it's just very, I don't like to get into discourse with people because a lot of people don't know what they're talking about. So it's a waste of my time and I have far more important things to do. But when I'll see the most asinine feedback of saying, oh, well, this number is just another version of some other number. I'm not going to give specifics because I don't want that to distract from the point I'm trying to make. And I can clearly point out, be like, the lighting is completely different. The camera work is completely different. It's like it's like just because you see maybe a similar color, like maybe this number is very neutral as far as color design goes. And then this other number has dark lighting and you think they're the same thing and they're not, when like this number is far more brightly lit than this one, where I'm just like,
to use an example of that, which I consider one of the biggest examples, the amount, going back to last year's contest, when we got to see the first performance of Felix Sandman, Boys with Emotions, I remember all over the internet seeing, it's a rip-off of Benjamin Ingrosso Dance You Off.
no, it's not.
And I'm like, no, how on earth can you possibly take these two concepts and say they're the same? Like, there was nothing done the same. And this is, like you've just said, people like to say, oh, it looks like this, it sounds like this. And it's,
But also, why don't you widen your references? Do you watch nothing else but these shows? Like, if you're going to make a reference to something, like, I don't know, pick a movie, pick a photo shoot, pick a television show. Like, it really just shows what your Rolodex of references is, that you're only drawing references to other Mello numbers. I mean, really, really.
if you're going to get critical and you want to sort of put out an analysis like that, at least have a wider spectrum, to choose from. When you can only compare it to other Mello numbers, it's not a good start for your argument.
But
All.
that's, you know what? I say that, and then I'm thinking about it, and I was going, okay, so again, I don't want to name specifics because, I mean, I'm going to give a little bit of information where if people have musical training, they'll be able to figure out what I'm referring to. But basically, there's an entry, and people were saying, oh, this song is clearly just a ripoff of some other song that I didn't know what the song was. So I looked up the song, and it's just because both of them have triplets in there. And so if you don't know music theory, then you're not going to know what that means. But I'm like, okay, neither one of these people, the people that wrote either of these songs, neither one of those people invented triplets. That's just a thing that exists in music. And like, if you really want to, sorry to ruin your fun, but music is maths. It's all maths. Like it's literally it's maths. So it's like you don't. I mean, again, I don't want to say that people can't give their feedback. That's not what I'm saying. Because listen, it's YouTube is a democratized platform. Anybody can just say whatever they want to say and come on here. But I'm letting you know that you're wrong, and that's the fact that you're wrong. When you think these are the same, I'm going, no, they're not. They just both have triplets in there, and lots of songs have triplets. Anyway.
So we're going to go on to the second act that we are going to discuss that week, and this is Clara Klingenström with Behöver inte dig idag.
Oh, that's the full title. Behöver inte dig idag.
Yeah.
Got it.
Right. I was so surprised.
I was gagged. I did not expect her to qualify. I don't, before anyone comes for me, I'm not angry about her qualifying. I have no issue with her. I have no issue with her qualifying. I was just surprised because you watch the show and you get a sense of, okay, I think this will get this result and I think this will get this result. And I didn't expect her to get into even the top 5, and then she ended up being one of the AC qualifiers. I went, what? But it's honestly, it makes for great television. I've always said that a shock result is always great television. So,
well, this time last week when we were going through, the lineup, and
we were like, no chance.
we were like, this is contending to come 6th or 7th. I had a bit of hope that Bobby Lundgren was behind the song, but I didn't really expect overly much. And then we got the snippets. And again, I was like, this is nice, but this is not competitive enough. But
at least in this lineup.
No.
In this lineup. Yeah.
Saturday. And this was just... it was just a breath of fresh air. This was, this song isn't something that hasn't been done in Mello before, but it was done so well. Like the way this was put together, the stage, and like whoever was in control.
The lighting design.
The lighting was phenomenal. And again, to a lot of people, they may not understand that, but it was just so gorgeous. The tones of color that we used that complemented her, the dress, just everything was so simple. Like there wasn't a lot going on, but it was just done in such a beautiful way. Like they staged this really well. I really like the song. This has been one of the ones that I've had on repeat since Saturday night. I'm so glad that this has progressed. This really deserved it to go to Andra Chansen. Super competitive semi. Again, most of us this time last week were kind of like, well, it's Eric and the Mamas to the final. Tess is going to AC, and then everyone else is fighting for that last spot. And it didn't end up happening. And I'm not at all surprised that we saw Clara go through over Tess. And that's not me saying I prefer Clara's song over Tess's. I think both were really good songs that were staged really well with great concepts. But this, again, I think this really resonated with a lot of the Swedish audience who voted for it. It was staged well. I just have so many good things to say. It was such a pleasant surprise. One of my favorite numbers of the year, honestly.
I will say, though, that I preferred the lighting that I saw her number have during the press rehearsals. I think they toned it down a little bit for the broadcast, and maybe they felt like, oh, it's too much. It's never too much with me, darling. It's never too much. It just felt like it was a little bit more dreamy in the rehearsals. Now, having said that, I don't think that they ruined the lighting for the broadcast. It's just, I'm fussy about lighting. Anyway, honestly, of these 7, I'm trying to look through them and I haven't really done a ranking. If I was doing the ranking, I don't think I would have even put this out of the first round of voting, but it was still way better than more or less almost everything we saw last week. So again, that's a testament to how strong this semifinal was. I don't fault anyone if this is one of their favorites in this semi or in the entire year, because I don't care enough to care about stuff like that. I don't care what other people like. It doesn't matter. It has no effect on my life. But it's fun to see a newcomer get to advance further, because as we were talking about this earlier, that this final lineup, obviously she's going to AC, but the finals is stacked full of veterans of the contest, massive veterans, not just, oh, you've been in this because you have nothing else in your career. We're talking about people that have won the contest, people that have done very well in the contest and been close to winning. You know, it's a really, really intense lineup across this entire year, even, because that was what Krister wanted to do for his final year. So it's nice to see that there are a couple of newcomers that have been able to advance further, that especially the ones that people don't expect to, like her in this semi, and then Frida in semi 2. So good for her. And I mean, well, we're not talking about AC yet, but yeah, good for her. Again, that's all I can really say.
What you've gone off, you know, before we even heard any of the songs, going back to December when we had this lineup, we knew how competitive the year was going to be. So many stacked veteran names. So I think, whereas to, you know, artists in different years, it may feel disheartening, progressing any further in the lineup is a huge compliment, because it's just so stacked with, well, like you said, these aren't people who've, you know, been to the final once or twice and, you know, have had a hit. These are people, you know, who've won the contest, people who've come runners up, people who've had massive hits, people who have been in the Swedish scene for over a decade, you know. So good for anyone, good for Frida, good for Clara, you know, really well deserved. Now we're going to move on to the third act that we'd like to talk about this week, and that is Sannex with All Inclusive.
I was gagged. I thought they were going to qualify. I was gagged when they didn't even make it out of the first round of voting.
Very surprised. When I did my little data analysis, I actually didn't do this till Saturday last week. I predicted this to come third.
So I did too.
In fact, it came seventh. And I sort of have a theory why. Sannex were sort of the dance band of the year. They're known for doing dance bands, and there were hints of dance bands, but I think why this came seventh was a lack of commitment to their genre and what they do. It felt like we kind of got a little bit of dance band. It was done in a more modern way, and it was kind of, you know, super catchy. Like, again,
Is it too poppy?
I think it was just a bit too. I think when you look at the Swedish audience, when it comes to the dance band act, they want them to go balls to the walls, done. They want every dance band cliche thrown into it, and that's what the Swedish public love. This kind of was 50% there, and then had pop elements, and I think it was a really competent performance. They did a really
good, I liked it.
Built the stage. It was great. I think the Swedes looked at it and was like, this is a bit halfway there. That is the only reason that I can, like, had this come in fifth, I would again just put it down to the fact it's a tough semi. But second place, I just think the Swedes were like, this isn't going all the way. And I think that's why it didn't advance any further, which, again, it's a shame. It was so catchy. You know, the concept was there. The song was in Swedish. And
good performance, good staging.
They communicated very well what they were singing about and the energy that they were bringing to the stage. It was a great number. Just as we keep saying, this was like the semi-final of death. It was just a bloodbath, and there had to be some shocks. And, you know, unfortunately, Sannex were one of them. Move on to the fourth song that we'd like to talk about this week. It is Lovad with Allting är precis likadant.
I was snatched. She snatched me by my whole face. Here's the thing. Anybody that has followed my commentary about whether it's this show or just art in general. They know that this is not the type of song that I would normally go for, and I've always struggled to figure out if there's any way for this type of song, this kind of just an emotional ballad where you stand at a mic, to make that interesting enough for me. This set a new standard for how to do that, and I won't name names, but I was talking with Mike before we started recording where I was just completely confused by there were some people that were critiquing this, and their critique was, I didn't get it. How do you not get it? This was such meticulously crafted, phenomenally executed visual storytelling. I did not understand a word she sung, and I knew exactly what she was singing about because of how well this thing was designed. This was complicated, and they did it incredibly well. Like, people don't, I think it's just because people who watch this show are not into film and television production, so they don't understand how complicated this is to shot by shot. Like, you have to film Daniel doing his choreography, and you have to place him at the exact right spot to line up. You have to get her shots right, and you have to put him where he's supposed to be to make the movements match. This is not a simple number. This is so complicated, and I love complicated. Like, the more complicated you make your number, if you do it well, then the more I get excited. And it's a shock to me that I would have put this through as one of my 4 qualifiers for this week, because this is, on song alone, this would have been one of my, you would think, if you just knew the song, you go, oh, this is going to be one of her least favorites of the week. This was, and am I a little biased because I love Daniel and I think he's an amazing dancer, and anytime he dances, it's just art. Yes, but even if it wasn't Daniel, if it was just anybody that was doing it well enough to communicate the story, oh, I was just like, oh my God, I'm watching a short film. That's what's happening right now. I'm watching a musical short film, and it was incredible to watch. And yeah, and people can feel how they feel, positive or negative, about the song. But to me, it's so, the song is just incidental to me at this point. I mean, well, it's not, because obviously the filmmaking is telling the story of the song, but I just mean that. But anyway, I think I've gotten long-winded enough, so you can just say what you have to say.
This just, I think of, again, we have seen all 28 performances now. This was the biggest surprise of the year for me. I knew sort of Lovad style. I knew we were going to get that very Molly Standian-esque sort of song. Did I think that we would sort of get much out of that? No.
You told me you got quite emotional when you saw it for the first time.
I'm someone who's always been very much in their feelings with music, and I have reacted so differently to so many different songs, and I can be in touch with my feelings with music. With a Swedish language song, though, that is a rarity. When I watched this in full, I couldn't explain it. I was so fixated on what was going on, and I just felt something going on in my body. Like, I felt a little bit overwhelmed. I did get a little bit emotional watching this. I was really touched. And again, like Genevieve said, that is a credit to the staging, and I think this is actually by far the most complex number of the week in terms of putting it together, staging it. Lovad as well.
Well, one of them, but we'll get to that. Definitely one of the most complicated of the whole year, though.
She was just stood there, and we've critiqued other, females in this lineup and in previous years as well for not utilizing the stage and not really having anything about their performance. But this was just executed so perfectly. Like, she emoted so well, stood there with the microphone. The stand with the flowers was stunning. Daniel's choreography, again, like you said, the way Daniel dances is so artistic, and he can go from doing a banger with Anton Ewald and putting on a show to just purely emoting the song. He's not the performer, he's not singing it, but he was such a key element in portraying the emotion of the song, and that is a credit to him. as a dancer, because had that not been there, the entire number would have been off and you wouldn't have got that same feeling. And it makes me listen to the song in a totally different way. It was my third favorite of the week. It's one of my favorites of the year. This number was just, it's so rare we get such a minimalistic number in one respect, but then
it's so elevated. Like, this is how you elevate a simple ballad. You know what I mean?
So gorgeous.
I'm gagged that this came 6th and everything we were subjected to last week.
Oh my God. Like, it just, I'm just really glad it didn't play 7th. I think she was the favorite all week to play 7th. And I'm so glad this at least picked up some votes. But again, bloodbath. In any other semi-final, I think this would have stood a really good chance of going further in the contest. And it's, I still feel a little bit emotional now. Just a credit to Lovad, credit to Daniel for that choreography. I'm assuming it was Sasha who staged the number. And it's just, we see so little creative. I think you've, in other years highlighted that the Swedish songs are always, not always, but most of the time less competitively staged. And it doesn't feel they're given the same leg up as a lot of the other numbers. But to see so much creative process go into a Swedish number that isn't supposed to be, an Ardeniana or sort of a big dansband number, it's so good to see. Like, this needs
well, and also I don't think they would have done a staging concept like this if it weren't for this year being what it is, where there's no audience. So again, I'm not going to say that it's good that everything the world was subjected to last year. That's not what I'm saying. But if life gives you lemons, you make delicious lemonade, and this was delicious lemonade. So yeah, I mean, I could go on and on and on, but we have other people to talk about. So
have a lot of people to talk about. 4 facts of the week.
Bop. Bop. Literally, when the song clips got released and I was listening to them, the first thing I texted Mike was, Efraim's song is a bop, in all capital letters. I wrote all of that in capital letters. And I'm going to be interviewing him in a couple days from now. So keep an eye out for my channel, because I want to talk to him. It's not even just I'm helping Lisa. It's no, you did a thing, so now let's have a conversation.
I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna eat my words. This time last week,
you were not checking for him. We were not. Both of us. We were not checking for him.
This was by far my least anticipated name, the 7 acts we had.
And he made you eat your words.
I looked him up on YouTube. I heard the style of music he was doing. I was like, this is very Shawn Mendes. And then I saw him covering Shawn Mendes. I was like, oh, great. We're going to get another pop boy with a guitar. Not here for it. Efraim did not give me that in the slightest. We got a well put together pop number. It was well sung. It was well staged. The concept was simple but effective. It's a banger. It's just such an instant banger. Easily going to be one of the biggest Spotify hits of the year. This will do very well in streaming. I'm just so surprised. I don't know very much about Efraim. I think he's very much new onto the scene. He's competing in a year full of veterans, and he's managed to go through to the final. Not the final, so he's gone to Andra Chansen. I got a bit carried away. That'll be next week. Good, honestly, good for him. I love to see new talent come through with a high style concept and to do well with it. That is so refreshing to see. And we've picked up on previous acts, on Clara this week, Frida this week, who've managed to sort of beat the odds and shine through in a tough situation. Efraim has done it. I know when I heard the songs, people were like, this should comfortably make it into AC, but you never know how messy the show will get on Saturday. And I'm sure most people would not have guessed that this gone through over Tess initially. So good for him. Really, really happy for Efraim.
Yeah, well, and so if we're going to start getting into details, which I do want to do, because this was one of my favorites of the night. And honestly, now that all of the numbers are out, there's only a handful that I've actually pulled up to play, and this is one of them. I think I've pulled up Eric, Arvingana, Efraim. I think I did look up the mamas because I wanted to see that transition. I love that transition. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, so this song is so, I mean, first of all, the song gives it a huge leg up because it's so instantaneous. It just immediately is it gets you there, you know? It's such a just a good pop song.
Very.
And once I saw the rehearsals, I really liked what I was seeing, that because I wasn't sure if it was going to fall flat because again, I didn't know much about him. I didn't know if they were going to be overly minimalistic with the staging. I didn't know if he would do anything with his performance or if he was just kind of going to stand there awkwardly. But okay, so we'll get into details. So his outfit is predominantly white with black accents, and then his dancers are predominantly black outfits with white accents. Love that because it's coordinated, but he still is, you know,
There's no clash. Like,
yeah, he's different from what they're wearing. I like the dancing choreography behind him of you know, using the mic stands. It's offering something a little bit different because it can often be very typical of, oh, you've got a kind of cute young guy that's going to have a lot of young adolescents that are going to get excited about this number, and then you're going to have a couple dancers behind them. I think that utilizing the mic stands gives it a little something extra, so it's visually a little less been there, done that than if it was just two dancers dancing behind him. And then it also helps because then since he's sticking with his mic and his mic stand, so he can do a little bit of not as much as his dancers are doing, but it again creates more cohesion. So then it doesn't look as disjointed or awkward of, oh, you're just kind of standing there with your mic stand and then your dancers are running around doing all this stuff, because it forces the dancers to mostly stay like right here. And I like the staging design as well because it starts off, when the number starts, it's mostly black and white, which matches the outfit. So it's starting, it gives you something to build up to, because then as the song builds and it gets to the chorus, then you have all the color flooding in, and you have blue and you have purple. So it's pretty to look at, but it doesn't overly clash. I really hated Alvaro's color design. It was just messy. You're just throwing colors in there just because, and I didn't like that. This was a lot better as far as design goes, and just the execution. It wasn't too busy, you know, and it was very clean. And again, as a newcomer, this was a very, very good number. If this was somebody more established, would I be like, it's a little simplistic? Probably. But again, I'm sorry, like I look at the bigger picture. So I'm not going to judge it. I'm sorry, I'm not going to judge everyone the same way. I am going to judge young newcomers differently than people that have done it a million times, because it's just, it doesn't really make sense to to blanket, to judge everyone the same way. It doesn't mean that like, okay, you're new, so you can do a bad job, but it's just, anyway, I overly explain plenty. I don't need to overly explain that. So yeah, I mean, I think that I'm more of, some people watch this and they're so swayed by the show or by the song that the show can be awful and they're still rating it well. I'm much more easily swayed by the show itself than the song. But this was one of the instances where the song was just that good and that undeniable that the song already gave it a huge leg up. And then just a well-designed, well-executed staging. It was clean. It was nice to look at. And yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to speaking with him as well, because I found out he's in the film. So I'm gonna press him. I'm gonna go, really? Is that what you're into? Like, explain your choices. If he likes Danny Zuko, I will kick him off of the call. I will declare that right now. Anyway, But yeah, no, I think he's great, and he's a co-writer on the song. And also, people are also underestimating. Like, this is what I'm talking about, where I can't listen to people talk because they don't know what they're talking about. But they're not giving him enough credit as a performer, because he did have to look at different cameras, and they were making comparisons to other people who have just kind of stood there and done their numbers, and maybe the camera shots change, but they're not really connecting to the camera. So it's these details that people just are not qualified or not intelligent enough to pick up on. And this is why, like, I don't, it's like, anytime I hate myself enough to try to check out other commentary on this, I always regret it. So it's like, why do I do that? Why do I think, oh, I should, what? It's a bad habit. It's the whole, oh, I have to do market research. And then I'm going, no, actually, you don't have to. You can just talk to Mike. Why do you do this to yourself? Anyway, congrats, Efraim. Totally deserved. I mean, again, when the number happened, because it was, what was it, 1, 2, 3? So it was right after Lovad, and this started, it lit up, not just because it's great lighting, but it just the whole package, it completely lit up the television. I went, oh no, this is gonna go through. I knew, because it was just so instantaneous. I just knew it was so good, like, no doubt about it.
So now we go on to our first finalist of the week. It is the Mamas with In the Middle.
I love them.
Welcome back, ladies. Welcome back to the final. I mean, Zayn and Dennis just...
They snapped, but they always do.
The concept of starting the performance in last year's outfits was just genius. I mean, there was no question that they would get on the stage and Sweden would instantly go, oh, it's the Mamas. They won last year. I mean, that was a given. But to start the performance in the same formation, with the same lighting, with the same outfits, was just such a gag. And then obviously we have the lighting effect, and then they're all in gold. And it's
the transition, I screamed the first time I saw that. Oh my God.
I was just like, yes. Like, this is just this is why we love the creative people behind all this, because it takes these people to put this together. It doesn't just happen. And SVT is like, oh, we have it already. Like, someone has to write this, to draw it, to bring it together, and that takes so much work. Just, the thing with the Mamas, they're never going to have the biggest, boldest show, because they don't need it. They are the focus. They are the talent. The vocals on Saturday were just outstanding. Just like last year, they ooze charisma, they ooze likability. I think, they were very vocal prior to the semi-final that, this song wasn't going to be Move. It was going to be very much, this is us dedicating the song to each other, to the people who've supported us and got us to where we are. That fully came across during the performance. That moment in the final minute where they come together in the circle, they have that, the key goes up a little bit and they throw their arms up with the whip. Oh my God, I was just getting everything on this performance. Personally, and I didn't expect this, I prefer In the Middle to Move as a song.
Really? Wait, as a show or as a song?
As a song. I think in terms of show, Move was just so high impact that was always going to be very difficult to top. And
really, because I'm the opposite. I prefer Move as a song, but I prefer this show.
No, I'm switched. I've always said, I think one of the biggest advantages that the Mamas had last year was the audience. I think when you have an act like the Mamas, they draw energy and they feed off the audience. And again, I know we're not, we've said on this show, we like it as a televisionally staged performance, but with Move, there was such a focus on the audience, and that shot when they're going back to the stage before the big note, and the Sweden is losing it in the audience. And like, I've been to Mello 7 times. I've been in that arena in the final, and it's very rare that the people in that arena get up and scream and cheer on and act like they did the Mamas. So I think that was always going to be missing. And I think a lot of people who I know a lot of people are dismissing this already and think this wasn't as high impact as move. And I think those people, they've not quite worked it out yet, but I think
Well, those are people that are just in this bubble that they don't understand like what's what. Like these are the type of people who don't understand the appeal of Arvingarna. I'm like, bye. Like bye.
this is missing the audience because I think had we had an audience this year, again, this would be another one that you would just indulge in. And I think that would have elevated it so much further. But, you know, take away what is probably their biggest strength. They still put on a hell of a show. They performed like professionals who've been doing this for years. And I know individually they obviously have, but this group has only been, you know, a couple of years, and they look like they've been doing it for 20 years. It's just so effortless. The likability shines through. I'll say it now. I will not be upset to see them go to Rotterdam. This is just joy on plate, and I'm eating up every single bite of it. I love it. I love them.
I love that they went the extra step of filming a fake walkout video for when you see
right?
because here's the thing, because I had seen the rehearsal video, but I hadn't seen a rehearsal of the show, so I didn't know that they were going to do that until I watched the actual live broadcast. And then when I saw that, I went, oh my, they went it's kind of like how when Eva and Ava, I complimented when we did our reviews, I was saying that I really like how when they were walking out, they were already in character for the number. And it was something similar where that extra attention to detail, the fact that they're walking out and it's a fake walkout video where they're in the old outfits and the old hair and the old accessories. And then, because the thing is, of course, like if you're already in the bubble, you probably heard that this was a thing that they were going to do, that there's going to be this transition, because I was tweeting about it. I was not hiding the fact that this was coming. But most of the people that are tuning in to watch had no idea that was coming. Liselle was even saying to me, I don't remember if she texted this or if she wrote it in my live chat on YouTube when I was watching and streaming at the same time. And she said, oh, my mom was confused and she didn't, you know, why are they wearing the same thing that they wore last year? And then the effect happened. She was like, oh, you know, a lot of people kind of had that reaction. And it's a real moment, you know, and it gets people to pick up the phone and vote on the app and be like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And it's such a great, because here's the thing, because you were talking about you prefer the show from last year. But for me, the show last year, I think they were great performers, but the staging as a staging concept was just very simple. And I think we've established by now that I like more to be happening. So the fact that they were wearing black outfits, which looked beautiful, I'm not knocking the outfits, but you know, the staging was mostly just dark and then they were lit up, but there wasn't really anything else there happening visually. I did become aware of the fact that they had plans for when they were supposed to go before that got canceled, that they were going to add a lot more color into the number. So I would have been interested to see that, and maybe then it would have been preferable just because it, you know, the fact that I like that song better would have tipped it over the edge. But this to me visually is what they deserve. You know, these bold, iridescent gold outfits, and you know, I love all of their hairstyles, these big, you know, just like they are divas, they are powerful. They're like, you were talking about how, oh well, they feed off of the audience, but what's really incredible about this is that they get in their formation and they're in a circle and they're feeding off of each other. And I think that's beautiful, you know, because it's really, since we can't get the visual of them singing to the audience to communicate the message, it's them singing to each other. And I think that's really beautiful, because I don't think you always see that with groups where they're really singing to each other. Because a lot of time, even if you think about other groups, whether it's a band or a girl group or a boy band or whatever it might be, it's always about connecting to the audience. It's always about connecting to the fans. But you don't always get them singing something where they're singing to each other. So I think that's something really special that maybe people aren't really taking into account. And yeah, and again, I love Sign and Dennis. Listen, again, I gotta get the color theory out. Yellow and purple are on the opposite sides of the color wheel. It's a great contrast. So I saw people trying to be like, I don't get, but it's purple and they're wearing gold. I'm like, yeah, and it makes sense. You don't know color theory. Goodbye. Bye. Stop talking. Stop talking. Or if you're gonna talk, don't do it in front of me. I don't want to hear your wrong takes. Bye. Bye. Anyway, so glad they qualified.
You know, the lyrical, I know they're not actually writers on the song, but the lyrical content of this song resonates so well. You know, they were devastated not going to Rotterdam. I know how hurt they were, and I know it was a big hit for them. And you can just hear in the song that even though it's not their song, they are singing it to each other. It's like, we were hit down, we didn't get it, but we're going to come together, we're going to meet in the middle, and we're going to push through. And that's why that formation moment in the last minute with the circle, just goosebumps, because you can tell, like, even though it's a performance, they're looking at each other and they're like, come on, girl, like, let's do this. And they just, I honestly, going on like the rehearsal clip, it wasn't that I was disappointed. I didn't know if I was going to get the same sensation that I got from watching Move. Because when you watch Move, it's just, yeah, it's everything. But I got it. I found myself inside screaming and cheering for them. And that's why I think they are still very dangerous in this lineup and they should not be discounted. I know that In the Middle will not be the streaming hit of the year. That's very clear. But neither was Move. You know, this all comes down to what happens on the Saturday night. If this place is really well in the running order and the moment just happens, that could throw everything up in the air, and Sweden could think, you know what, they really do deserve to go. It's weird. I'm getting natural goosebumps thinking about it now. And again, the costuming behind this was great. Dina, the tallest of the group, stunning. How big her, oh my God. All of them were stunning, but I felt last year that Dina sort of got like the least attention of the three of them. But Dina, when I looked at Dina, I was just,
It's funny. I forget what the video was, but I was on YouTube, and normally don't look at the comments, but I was looking at the comments and somebody said, I'm glad the tall mama is getting more attention this year. And I went, she has a name, but that's really funny, the tall mama.
I do understand that, because I feel there was, I think that's actually more to do with, both Ashley and Lulu, like, had big notes to hit. Like, Ashley had the big first one in the final chorus, and then Lulu had the second one. So in terms, even though Dina had her verse in the song, Dina didn't have, that opportunity to shine as brightly as I think as Lulu and Ashley. And I think this year she's got it. She really stands out, and they're such goddesses. Like, I keep saying that. I've said it time and time again. It's so rare on this stage in Mello we get an act that just shines as bright as this. And in my heart, I want to see this in Rotterdam. I just think they are so worthy. And to win it 3 times back to back would just be iconic.
Yeah. And I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. They're not my number one. If you force me to rank, they're not my number one of the 28 in this year, or even the 12 that will be in the finals. But on principle, if you tell me who should go, I'm gonna say them, just because I'm very just, fair is fair. They won, they should have gotten to go. And so, and also it's a very good number. So it's not like they came back and they brought something terrible and I'm still saying they should go. They are doing a great job again. So, but if it doesn't happen, I mean, it's, that's...
They've done themselves proud. They don't need to win this again. They've technically won it twice. They're in the final of one of the most competitive finals that this competition has ever seen. They've done themselves proud. They don't need to do any more. But the ticket to Rotterdam would just be the sprinkles on top of the cake for them.
Oh boy, if you thought we were long-winded before, we have much to discuss now. Maybe I should let you go first because...
Well, let's introduce the act. It is song number 7. It's Eric Saade with Every Minute going direct to the final, becoming only the second person in the history of this contest to go direct 4 times. This, just when you think that Eric is going to do the expected and you think you know what's coming, this happens. And this is why this song deserves everything. Eric could have easily, we knew Eric was coming back with an English release. It's his first English release in 5 years. Most of us expected a high, energetic dance performance from Eric. That would have been the typical check, yeah, it's Eric, and we would have been happy. But no, Eric was going to give you something completely different. He gave you fashion, he gave you staging, he gave you concept, he gave you aesthetic, and he delivered it with a bang. That performance will be very much, I think it's very Marmite. I think people will either adore this or they can't stand it. There's no in the middle with this song, it's one or the other. It's just done so well. I said last week I thought we were going to get something on the lines of Mons or Loreen, where it was, let's not make this about the whole stage. Let's focus. Let's create a concept. Let's create a little world on that stage and let Eric blossom. And everything, everything's just done so well. Even though it's super minimalistic and there's not a whole bunch going on, there's such a narrative, and the way Eric communicates with the camera, like I was saying to Genevieve before we started filming, like my favorite parts of the song is when he just smiles, like when he does that touch and my heart just melts. I'm honestly gagged. I'm so impressed that someone like Eric Saade, who has been known for doing a certain sort of number, can come back, do something completely different. He's blowing up the internet. His performance is
number 1 trending in Sweden.
Number 1, which does not happen. We don't have the Spotify numbers yet, but I think this is going to be the highest of the finalists that comes out. This time last week, I was not sure if Eric had the stamina and the hype to go all the distance to the final and win it. Right now,
oh, he's a threat in the best way. Mm-hmm.
I thought Susie was walking it, but now we have got some...
Eric said, what's that? These are your words. Eat them.
I ate them. Just, Susie has got very strong competition for the final. I can honestly, last year we had the mamas and daughter, that final moment. I see that versus Eric. I can see it just being so close in the jury votes, and the televote, it could be that close again. Just both are fantastic acts. But Eric, what he did was, I'm still gagged. I can't find the words to put together, but super impressed, super proud. I would be very happy to see this represent Sweden and me. Go.
So I've been saying for weeks now that Arvingarna my number 1. Arvingarna my number 1. And I just really did not see anyone showing up and dethroning them. And then I watched Eric's rehearsal video, which, mind you, there was stuff that needed work. There was some lighting that needed work, and there was some stuff with cameramen, and it's basically there was stuff that needed work. But still, I was just going, oh, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait, hold on. And then I kept, that was the thing is, the first time I watched it, I was watching it on stream, because I was streaming myself watching the rehearsal videos that had gotten uploaded. So I watched that, and then I went, and I immediately, here's the thing, normally I watch the wide shot, and then I watch the camera video, which mimics how it's meant to look on television, and then that's it. And while watching it, I give my feedback afterwards, and just go through all of them like that. Eric's, I watched it, meaning the camera feed, and I immediately went, oh, no, I have to watch that again. Because it commands the stage. It demands your attention. You can't look away from it. I've seen, obviously, as with anything, not everyone is a fan, but everyone's talking about it.
There you go.
And that's important. And it's not because it's a joke act, you know. It's a credible entry. It's so artistic, it's so high concept. And listen, I will always geek out over if you do something interesting with your camera work. I'm immediately going to boost you up in my overall ranking or rating, however you want to do it. And people, again, because they're not smart, they don't understand how complicated this is, because it's so much work for Eric and for the people that are working on the number. That's another thing, is I hate when people are like, oh, well, other people are doing the work for you. No, it's a collaborative effort, and you're stupid if you don't understand that. Like, they have to be very precise in where is the camera going. It's going to go back here, and it's going to, you know, you have to create a certain shot, because if you just kind of have it go back somewhere, he could be off to one side. It won't look right, and it's going to ruin the mood. You know, you and I, but also a lot of people, had a go at Danny for having such a shaky cam.
Yeah.
There's no shaky cam here. Everything is so meticulously designed with, okay, we're gonna go back here, and we're gonna go up close. We're gonna go exactly to here, and he has to connect, and he has to emote, and he has his choreo. And that's another thing. A lot of, I don't know a lot, but I've seen some people, they're having a go at the choreography. I'm so sorry that he's not doing basic generic hip hop choreography that every boy does when they come to Mello, and that I'm so sorry that you're being challenged by a fusion of hip hop and contemporary. Oh, big bad Eric Saade came and decided to do something outside of the box. Ooh, so scary. Yeah, I'm really irritated. I don't know if you can tell that people are not giving this number credit. They're not giving him credit. And it's so wild to me that I've known about Eric Saade for basically almost a decade now. And there were songs that he would release where I go, okay, this is a bop. But I was never somebody that I'm going to go out of my way to defend him, because I don't know. It wasn't the fight that I was trying to fight. It just never really grabbed me in that way. But now, oh no, now he's got me. Like, we finally got here. We finally reached this point where now, if you try to say something stupid about Eric Saade's number, I'm gonna give you one of these with my very highly drawn eyebrows. You know, where it's so difficult to command the stage and to really own the space the way that he's doing when there are hardly any camera cuts. And there is nothing else there that can distract or hide him. He's completely exposed. So any wrong thing, you're going to see it. That is not something that a newcomer can do. This is a guy who's been doing this since he was a kid. For better or worse. I feel very weird about kids getting into show business. It's really, I actually really hate that, but it is what it is. He's been doing this since he was a kid. He's now 30 years old. He is a grown man doing grown man things on this stage. And it's also really funny to me that, because leading into it, when you just read me the song lyrics, I hadn't heard the song yet. I didn't know what the staging was. And I was going, ooh, cool, salacious. I was giving my life at salacious. But the thing is that when I'm watching it, it doesn't even really register to me that it's a salacious song, because it's not really a salacious number. It's very artistic. It's very high concept. I'm just so... I don't have even enough words to properly articulate how much I love the camera work. It's so interesting to look at. It's so dynamic. It's really just every detail. I mean, it was weird to me that people were having a go at the clip, and I'm going, you've only seen the beginning. You don't see all the other details. You don't see the dancer coming in and doing the choreo with him. You don't see the curtains drop. You don't see the lights that flash when the second verse starts. You don't see, just there's so many detail, and it's it's always changing, you know. It's all one number, but it's not just like, okay, it's the chorus, so I'm going to do the set. It's because it's constantly just going around him. And I even love that part where, like, so he gets pulled by the harness thing that's attached to him, which is also cool. And it was funny because I was showing that to someone, and they were like, oh, how did that happen? And I said, oh, there's a harness on him. And they were like, well, how did that get on him? I was like, exactly. That's difficult. This is a very complicated number, and I love, listen, the more complicated you make your number, if you do it well, I'm going to get really excited because I love this. Like, the more difficult, you should challenge yourself as creatives and challenge me as a viewer to really be engaged with what you're doing. I cannot say enough good things about this, because there are some people that, and I'm not knocking people, listen, I get thirsty about who I get thirsty about. So I'm not judging, but I'm just saying that there are some people who it almost feels like their lead line when they're talking about Eric is, oh, he's so hot. And I like, that's not, I'm not, I'm not saying he's unattractive, but it's not even like something that really registers to me, because I'm so focused on just the performance and the whole design of the number, that anybody's physical attractiveness, not just with him, but anybody in this entire lineup, their physical attractiveness is just not what I'm thinking about. I mean, I might think about, like, are you styled well, but it's just not because here, Bianca Del Rio said it, beauty fades, dumb is forever. Like,
You know what? I just sort of going back to what you said with Efraim and going back a few weeks as well. We have said that we expect so much more from the veterans of this contest who have done it multiple times. This is why 3 weeks ago we were so hard on Danny Saucedo. We were so hard on him, and for that reason. And I remember, you can go back and watch in our week one review after it was done 3 weeks ago. We said, Danny's doing this, but Eric is coming in week 4, and Eric will come with something big. And this is it. This is what being a veteran is in this contest. It's being able to look at what you have done in the past as a performer, grow from that, and elevate it. And you look at Man Boy 11 years ago and the elevation.
and popular.
Both.
Even Sting was just another of that,
Actually, I think in a recent interview, he actually said, I really regret doing Mellow 2015. I don't know why.
I regret that he did it too. No, I'm kidding. I don't actually. My feelings are not that strong. I just wanted to make a joke. I don't want anyone getting mad. Like, oh, you were so complimentary and then you had to come for him. I'm not coming for Eric, okay? Actually, to be honest, out of everyone in this year's lineup, the person that I would most like to come onto my channel, and not just me having them come on so that I can just shove most of what they do onto Liselle's channel, I would like to have a conversation with Eric Saade, because I'm very interested to talk to him now, because I think he's made so many interesting choices of how this has been put together musically, how this performance has been put together, just with the performance and the whole artistic concept. I also love his single cover art.
Oh, God.
Because he went, oh, did y'all forget I'm multicultural? Here's a reminder.
Reminded you there? It's just, again, I think it's so rare that we see the growth and the professional maturity in an act like this. Again, not to harp on about other people, and I'll pick again one of my own favorites, Sanne Nilsson. There is not a huge growth from her first Mellow entry to her final winning one, and that time space was about 13 years. The growth that Eric has had as a person and a performer, it's mind-blowing how much he's changed in a decade, and how he knows what he wants to put out. He's comfortable in himself. Let's not forget, he was also a co-writer on this song, and I'm sure he absolutely had a hand in putting this staging together. This wasn't just given to him as a concept, like he was involved in the creative process of this. He knew. We've made it very clear across the 3 weeks we've been doing this show how much we appreciate creative mindseted people, and that usually goes to people like designing artists or the composers. It's very little. We don't usually highlight an artist this much, and because most of the artists don't get that creative with their numbers, but this man is just so talented, and he's a veteran in the most incredible kind of way, to have that sort of growth over 10 years and to be back with something that no one expected. Again, he could have come back with another pop banger and we would have been happy. We would have been getting our lives. But he was like, no, I'm going to challenge the audience. I'm going to...
Well, I don't know, because here's the thing with Eric. He has a weird track record for me, where usually I'm not as into his mellow pop songs, but then he'll release another song almost right afterwards, and I'm going, that's so much better. Why didn't you end it with like Girl from Sweden in 2015? The song he did with Deb, oh, that still slaps. I mentioned it last week. I'm going to mention it again. The song he did with Deb slaps. It still slaps to this day. Not saying that he should go back to it, because obviously he's evolved and we love that. But yeah, just listen. I love high concept. I love really dynamic cameras. Literally, I'm wearing my Zack Snyder merch. What's charity? The proceeds went to charity. It's Zack Snyder's birthday today. And if you know anything about Zack Snyder, he's so visually bombastic and dynamic with just the way he shoots action. Not even just action. When he's filming Superman, and Superman's cape is just exquisite, the meticulous attention to detail, so that's what excites me. I want to be stimulated by art, whether it's something interesting to think about, but especially film is a visual medium. So I care. This is what I'm into. Okay. I don't think about this show except when this is airing. So it's February, March right now. That's why I'm thinking about this. But so that's why, I'm far more inclined to favor things that have good camera work, things that are more complicated, because it's more visually interesting. And people who do overly simplistic stuff, again, I rarely get too swayed by a song. It can help a little bit to move positive or negative, but for the most part, a lot of what my judgment comes down to is just all the moving parts of a visual presentation. And visually, by far, this is the number. We definitely gave Lovad a lot of time tonight. We gave her flowers, so to speak, and she put them on a microphone stand. Anyway, sorry, bad joke. But so these are the types of, this is what I want to see when I turn this on. And especially, we can see that now the contest has evolved with the advancement of technology, so it opens things up so much more, that you can do things that you just would not have been able to do however many years ago. So I'm much more inclined to favor the people that go with that. I know that that's, the masses don't always go for that. They go for what they go for. Sometimes they want something more minimalistic. They don't always want the most technologically advanced number. But if I'm here to just give my feedback and what I like, I want all of it. And this number gave me everything. So
And he wins.
Congratulations, Eric. You're my new number one. And if you win, congratulations. And even if you don't win, it doesn't matter, because you're my number one, and that's all that matters to me. So.
But can he win?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course he can win. I think for a while now we've been saying that it's down to 4 people. I would almost make the argument that it's probably only down to 2 or 3 of them, but I'll just not get into that because I'm not trying to have that fight today. But that's my speculation. I'm not saying 100%. It's just we thought Sannex was going to qualify. They didn't qualify. So we're not saying stuff as if we're always right. It's just us speculating. So
I'm done trying to anticipate how the final will go, how the juries will vote, how the televote will go. I'm just this year going to keep my mouth shut and wait until Saturday, the 13th of March, to see how it all goes out.